Searching for a home can be a daunting task and bring a lot of stress. After making lots of offers, losing out many times, some buyers just take their ball and go home to their apartment to rent for another year. Some actually try to settle. And today, I want to talk about not settling. Let's make sure that we get the right home for you. And I want to talk about the fact that, there are some homes that you should never buy. So when I say don't settle, I don't mean like you really want the $1 million house, but you're only approved for $350,000. So, you might have to make adjustments to what it is that you're willing to purchase. Let's jump in, starting with homes on busy streets. Everyone dreams of being on a cul-de-sac street with no through traffic, no one to bother them, but obviously not everybody can have that. So what do you do when the best option is a busy road or street? Well, it kind of depends. Is it in the front? Is it in the back? Where are the bedrooms? How noisy is it when you're outside? If you're someone who likes to entertain, you may not be able to enjoy the outdoors due to the noise from the traffic. Personally, I think that busy streets are more noisy than slightly far away highway noise. It just kind of drones on, but still, if it's too loud, not fun. And there are always going to be people who do not want their kids or pets near busy streets or backing to a busy road. Now, if you have neighborhoods that sit off that busy road, those homes are probably going to sell for more than the ones sitting right on the busy road. Downtown, over the Rhine, those types of places might be the exception to that rule. But let's talk about bad flips. Now, there are contractors who flip homes and they do an amazing job. They get permits, they bring in quality contractors, people who know what they're doing to help them renovate this home. They will take it down to the studs where they need to. They will not just put in the fancy, great looking things, but they will replace the roof, the gutters as needed. All of those things that help someone purchase that home and feel much more confident in that. But the ones that I'm referring to are those homes that you walk in and you can see that whoever redid the wood floors absolutely knew nothing. It looks like a 2-year-old did it. Or the tile is obviously crooked, it wasn't done correctly, the trim is wrong, the doors and windows are crooked. If that is obvious when you walk in, imagine what you're going to find underneath. Just really recommend that you don't go down that road, especially when the seller refuses to fill out the property disclosure. The property disclosure is for your protection and it is required to be filled out by each and every homeowner. So those types of flips, I do have a hard time with. I don't want my folks getting in there and especially paying top dollar for something that they're not going to get an inspection for. Definitely recommend that any flip has a full inspection. Looking at a house that has multiple big ticket items that need repaired or replaced. Now, I am of the mindset that anything can be fixed. It's all just time and money. But when you have a sewer line that needs repaired or replaced, septic tanks, like these are huge ticket items. Now we have a lot of foundation issues here because in case you haven't heard, we have a lot of hills. So maybe you have a hill that is heading toward the house. Maybe everything is coming away from the house. It really just depends. Like both of those things can be bad depending upon where the house is with reference to the hills. So if you have a small crack in a foundation and can be filled by injection, that's not a big deal. But when you have foundations that like do this or this. Those types of cracks that then they end up twisting and creating these offsets, that's when you need to start being a little more concerned. We want to get that structural engineer involved and have them recommend the repairs. And that's where we really want the seller to be involved and be willing to help cover some of the cost for that, because it can be very, very expensive to do, say, piering and waterproofing and whatever else it's going to take to get that foundation solid. Again, you have multiple issues like those stacked on top of each other. Throw in maybe an old electric panel from Federal Pacific or aluminum wiring that hasn't been repaired. But yeah, I feel like you get to a place when you just keep adding things on where, unless you're paying next to nothing for this house, it just becomes very much not worth it. But that brings us to another fun topic, high tension wires. Now, these exist for a reason. It's important to have them, but they are an eyesore. And I can't speak to any health risk. You can Google that yourself, but I do know that many of the people that are looking, as soon as they see them, they're just like, I'm out. I don't want to be near it. Walking outside and seeing them every day, or, you know, just feeling like you're right next to it. They make noise even. It's not for everyone. And I think it's harder to sell a house that is sitting under, next to, or that's the view, is just that tower. All right, that brings us to mold. Mold is naturally occurring here. It's inside, it's outside. If there's a little on the drywall, you cut out the drywall, you move on. You treat any affected areas, but you just replace the drywall. But if you're looking at a home that has been sitting empty, or the AC hasn't worked and something was leaking, you know, it's just closed up with no airflow for the summer, and the mold has grown and spread throughout the house, that's different. That's a full gut right there. Like, and I do not use that term loosely. Like, you are removing every piece of drywall, all the insulation, everything is coming out of that house. Cabinets, floors, everything. I want it all gone. Everything gets treated and you start over completely. And so you kind of have to figure out, well, is it even worth doing all of that? Because it's a biohazard while the work is being done. And then will you get the money back out of it? I think that's really the question. If it also smells like smoke or cat urine, I would just light a match personally and run away very quickly. Lastly, animal infestations. And I'm not talking about a couple of field mice, they're everywhere. This was all farms, but raccoons, squirrels, and birds, which have kind of taken over your attic, these critters do not move away quickly or just because you ask nicely. You cannot move into these homes right away. You need to have someone come out, seal up all the holes with metal so that the critters don't chew their way right back in. There's something called exclusion, where a company goes around and they seal up all the little holes to make sure that the little mice and the raccoons and the things, like, they're not coming back. But once you do all of that, the attic you have to take all the insulation out, clean and HEPA vac all like everything up there, and then they redo all of the insulation after they know the critters are not coming back. They do add borax sometimes to kind of keep them away. I I don't know why that works, but apparently it does. The other thing is if that property was empty long enough or the problem wasn't handled quickly enough, there might be critters in the walls. And then you're talking about gutting walls, removing insulation there. They like tight little cozy spaces. So, I mean, they are there for the duration unless someone goes in and physically gets them out. If you didn't guess, yeah, the urine and feces is really harmful to our health. So we do not want to be around that. People that already have compromised immune systems cannot be around it. All right, and before I go, I just want to touch on solar. We get asked all the time, like, is solar worth it here? Is it going to increase the value of my house? Well, typically, no. I can answer that right off the bat, like, because most people, I mean, if the panels are there and the panels are paid for, they're thrilled if it works. But there are other issues here in Ohio. Squirrels eat the wires, then they don't work, and then someone has to come out and fix the panels and replace wires, and like, it starts to get a little costly. This has happened to me personally, and we have half of our panels that haven't worked in over a year. But the biggest thing to know, if you are really into solar, I really like the idea of it, but here in Ohio, we don't get enough credit for what we do create, the energy that we do create. So therefore, it's kind of 6 of 1. Like, you might be reducing your electricity bill somewhat, but unless you have a huge roof or you put the array down on the ground, you are probably not at a net zero. So most people are not going to pay extra for that situation. So when you go to sell, people are going to want those panels to be paid in full before they buy it. I just want you to understand, as someone who may want to add solar, make sure that your roof is newer before you do it, because it's really no fun to have panels removed and put back on, and it's a whole thing. So if you're looking to purchase a home with solar, you definitely have to look at the cost savings versus, you know, whether or not you're going to have to pay for that lease. Personally, we will pay for ours before we take off. But what do you guys think? Make sure that you reach out to us directly. You can go to our website, newcincyhome.com, or start a conversation in the comments below. Make sure that you check out this video to learn more about living in Cincinnati.